What I wanted to do today is talk a bit about the writing process, and I really want to emphasize to the students that writing is a process. It's not just a one and done kind of thing. So most students should have something like this complete, and I call this a story mountain. It's basically a timeline for the story where the beginning of the story is here, the main event, problem, the big thing that happens in the story, and then there's kind of the end of the story, sometimes a resolution, a fix to the problem, perhaps, if there was a problem. And each of these is a little part of a small story. So this whole story is about one time when I went fishing with my father and my brother, and I caught a small shark. So from the beginning of the story to the end of the story is about 4 or 5 hours. So it's not a huge amount of time. It's not about a trip to some place. It's not about a whole weekend. It's about one event, one thing, and you really try to break it down. So I have waking up, eating breakfast, driving to the dock, buying tickets, getting on the boat, entering the pool, which is a little bit like betting to see who would win the biggest fish or catch the biggest fish, starting to fish, catching a shark. The rule was that sharks and sailfish didn't count. So I realized I wouldn't win some money, caught some other fish. We went back to shore and then went back and I told my mom and my grandparents about the shark that I caught. All of this is a pretty short window of time. And what I really want to emphasize to students is to take each of these and really break it down. This just rewriting these is not the story. So the story would not be I woke up and ate some breakfast. Then we drove to the dock. When we got there, we bought tickets. Soon we got on the boat and entered the pool. That would not be a story. Okay, so I have kind of an example, and my next slide is only these first two events, waking up and eating breakfast. What I really want the students to do is try to think of as many ways you can describe what's going on. They can use adjectives, which we've talked about. Today in our lesson, we're going to be talking about using the five senses: smell, taste, what you see, what you hear, what things feel like. You can use those in your story as well to really describe as much as you can. Also adding in dialogue, which I've talked to the students a lot about. So here is the example. Let me see if I can adjust the size of my picture so you can see it a little bit. There we go. So this is, again, just those first two parts of my story mountain. So I'll read it quickly. It says, I was in the middle of a great dream when I heard my dad's voice. For a moment, I thought I was still dreaming, but then I heard him say, we are leaving for the boat in 30 minutes. I jumped out of bed, excited to go fishing. I rushed into the bathroom and brushed my teeth far faster than my parents would have approved in. As I quickly brushed my teeth, I could hear my dad talking to my younger brother, John, back in the bedroom. A minute later, I headed into my grandparents' kitchen. We were visiting them in Florida during April vacation. I grabbed a bowl, a spoon, and some cornflakes. Then I took the milk and orange juice out of the fridge. As I was doing that, John walked into the kitchen with my dad. Morning, I said to John. Sleepily, John answered. It still feels like the middle of the night. As we ate our breakfast, we all talked about the upcoming fishing trip. I hope I catch the biggest fish so I can win the pool, John said between a bite of cereal and a drink of OJ. So again, that is just these first two parts of my story mountain. I would continue on and write as much as I can about each of these events, expanding it, pulling out details, adding in adjectives, describing the weather, describing what people are doing, what they're wearing, smells, tastes. The more details that you can write, the better the story is going to be. And the story should take several weeks to write, at least 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, to write this story, this first draft. And then we'll go back and fix and change and edit and revise. So it's a process. It's not just one and done. If students rush through it, I'm going to have them go back and we're going to have to fix and change some things. So please, students, if you're watching this, make sure you're going through this process slowly. And parents, if you're watching it, try to remind your students to make sure they are going through slowly. So I hope that helps a little bit in terms of understanding what we're working on in writing. Thanks, everyone.